The challenges facing our teens today mean that more than ever, we need to be there to support them and encourage them. The Dr. STEM Show is here to provide discussions about topics that will help promote healthy relationships, self-image, and success for teens, parents, and the community. Our young people can achieve more in life than they ever dreamed possible. The Dr. STEM Show, hosted by Dr. STEM Malatini, will foster these discussions and encourage your participation.
This is the day. I know I've been waiting for this day where I can have the guest that I have today, Rodney Flowers, on set. And all of a sudden, we've had to take 20 takes to start the show. So today, get ready to be motivated, inspired, and empowered by Rodney Flowers. As most of you know by now, he's an international and national bestseller for his book, Get Up, I Can't, I Will, I Did, and Here's How. He also has another book, Essential Assertions, that he'll be talking about. But I can't wait to hear his story. I cannot wait for you to get inspired and motivated the way that I have been just the few hours that I've been with Mr. Flowers. Welcome to the Dr. STEM Show.
Thank you, thank you. Very glad to be here. Again, my name is Rodney Flowers, also known as the Get Up Guy, helping you get up and achieve more.
Boy, we're ready for that get up. You know, when I met you yesterday, because you flew in yesterday, I know I was ready to be inspired, but I can tell you that just talking to you, just seeing the way that you are, your energy, I mean, I believe you when you said get up and I'll show you how. So before we start the whole show, I'm just going to give you a little bit to tell us your story, because you do have a story behind Get Up and what you're doing now. When and how did it happen? Who are you?
Well, Get Up is a mission that I'm on. I'm on a mission to help people get up, because that's literally what I had to do. I had to get up from a traumatizing accident that I suffered when I was 15 years old, playing football in high school. I suffered a spinal cord injury that left me paralyzed from the neck down. And I remember that day so vividly when I was, trying to make the tackle, and, I went down. And I couldn't get back up, and it felt like all of the energy in my body just jumped out. And so, I was trying to get back up. My mind hadn't caught up with the fact that I was injured, and the signal from my brain to the rest of my body just wasn't getting there. Yeah. And so I couldn't get up. And so my family, ran out onto the field, and, I was yelling and screaming, because I couldn't move. All I could move was my neck from left to right. And so the trainers and the coaches, they stabilized me, and they took me to the local hospital. And there I was diagnosed a quadriplegic, and they started evaluating me. Yeah. And they did what you call a hot and cold test. It's called an Asia test. That's the medical term for it.
Okay.
And I couldn't feel or move anything in my body, honestly. And they started cutting the bottom of my feet because they wanted to know how severe the injury was. And they cut the bottom of my feet until I started bleeding. And I remember so vividly, my dad was standing there, and he was asking me, as he was standing there, hey, can you feel that? And I said, no, I can't feel that. What are they doing to me? And I was panicked and all traumatized. And he said, they're cutting the bottom of your feet, and you couldn't feel it. And so my life changed after that. Yeah. And I felt like I was down. Yeah. And from that moment on, all I wanted to do was get back up and get back on my feet and live the life that I wanted to live. And I know we're going to talk more about that, later. But that's essentially what Get Up is about. It's my story on getting up from that moment.
Yeah. And you know what? I know all of you that are watching today, you probably have had moments in your life when you were down, when you were sick, when things seem like they're falling apart. And I think that's now the quest of where we're going with this whole story of what it is that drives you now to want to get up. And what we have is at the end of the show, I'm going to put together a clip that you can watch of his story so you can go back with him and see what his story is about. So you're going to have about 6-7 minutes of his story at the end of the show. So continue to watch and you'll get to see what his story is all about and get to meet the people that were around them. So you were 15 years old.
Yes.
Ambitious. You ready to go NFL. Big. Now you're in a hospital. Your father tells you that they're cutting your feet. And that moment changes your life because you can't feel anything. Tell us about the journey of being in that hospital. Could you, I mean, what did they tell you that was going to happen to your life?
Well, basically, they began to prepare my family for, long-term care and, having someone to assist me 24 hours a day. I had lost all bodily functions. It was like taking care of a baby, all over again. And it seems very physical. You would think, oh, he's hurt and that's a physical thing. But for me, it was more a mental challenge. I was hurt, not only physically, I didn't feel any pain, not physically, but emotionally and mentally, I was hurt.
Yes.
I felt like everything that I ever wanted, everything that I ever dreamed of, and in the very being of who I am was taken away from me. And so I was trying to find myself, who I am, and how I was going to continue my life in that state. And, you would ask the doctors, about the latest treatments and procedures to better the situation, but they didn't have an answer for me.
Yeah.
Their answer was, it didn't look too good. It was probably going to be something that I had to deal with for the rest of my life, and things weren't going to change.
Yeah.
And so it was looking for answers, but not being able to find any.
Talking about your injury, you explained it to somebody before the show on how severe it was. Can you describe it again, that injury?
Yeah, I mean, it was.
As you said, it looked like the way that Christopher Reeve.
It was very similar to Christopher Reeve's
Okay.
injury. I was paralyzed from the neck down, one vertebrae from not being able to breathe, and so there was no movement and no sensation.
That was powerful for me when you were explaining to him and you said one vertebrae from being able to not breathe. And I thought, to get that hurt and to get you to sit here with us and to see you walking from the plane yesterday and now, this morning walking into the studio, and just, you're a miracle at its best. I'm telling you.
That.
Yep. You're a miracle at its best, and that's the best way that I can explain that. Tell us about your family. How did they react? And, how was that for the family, friends?
It was like having their world turned upside down.
Yeah.
We were a happy family. Southern hospitality with the cookouts and the Sunday dinners after church and things like that. That's how we lived our lives. And then all of a sudden, we have this injury.
Yeah.
We have me, and my family was very supportive. We were a faith-based family.
Yeah.
And so we believed in God, and we had a very strong support group from our church that we attended. And so I think I had the best support that I could ask for in a situation like that. So I really do commend my family and my mother and father and sister for being there for me. I mean, because without them, I couldn't do what I'm doing right now. I wouldn't be where I am right now. So they were very supportive, but I tell you, it was difficult for them. I mean, it was probably as difficult for them as it was for me, because it was life-changing.
Yeah. You know what? I hope that if you're one of those people that is down, whatever is happening in your life today, that today's show will give you that hope, will give you that motivation and inspire you to let you know that you too can get up. We do have in the studios today Rodney Flowers, who's talking to us about his plea and how he was able to get up. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
As a youth motivational speaker, author, and coach, Dr. STEM understands that in a world where today's youth and parents are jaded and disappointed by institutions and people they perceive as out of touch with the reality of their lives, motivation is a dose that is much needed. It's time to excel. Dr. STEM Malatini is a refreshing change from the typical speaker. Dr. STEM understands the pressures, heartaches, temptations, hopes, and dreams of the generation that is just now coming of age. Students listen in transfixed silence as she speaks with the clarity and confidence of someone who has worked with teens, parents, and teachers for over 20 years. Her high-energy school assembly programs create a defining moment for schools and provide an experience students never forget. To reserve your seat in one of her coaching sessions, purchase her books, or to book her services, email her at drstemmmalatini@gmail.com or go to her website at www.drstem.org.
Okay, we can't stop. We have to say what we're saying. This is going to be good, right? You have no idea. We have so much to talk to you about. We have so much that we have to share. But before we went on break, we were talking about the family reactions and how that is always helpful. Because I know when you're down, a lot of people, some people try to keep it in and not want the whole world to know about their emotions, about how they're feeling. So we have with us, Rodney, I mean, you should really, really get an opportunity to read his 2 books. The one is Get Up, I Can't, I Will, I Did, Here's How. He also has another book, Essential Sessions. So you can go on his website or you can also go on Amazon.com. As I said at the beginning, he's already a bestseller internationally and nationally. So be sure to get his books, especially the one, the Get Up, I Can't, I Will, I Did, and Here's How. Can they get those on your website as well?
Yes.
And what is that website?
My website is www.rodneyflowers.com. Again, that's www.rodneyflowers.com.
And I tried, ladies, because I know all of you are watching and going, okay, you know, is he going to tell us whether he's married or he's not? I tried to get that in for you, but it didn't come in yet. Let's hear more about his story. Let's hear more about his story. So we were talking about the family support, and you were telling us before the break that mentally, emotionally, it took a toll on you, which is a pain that most people cannot see, at least the visual. They could see you can't walk, they could see you can't do anything, you know, from the neck down. And then you have this emotional baggage. How did you deal with it? And did you have an opportunity to work and talk to somebody about it when you were down?
Well, you know, at first I didn't know how to deal with it. What happened was I was mad at the world and everyone in it, you know. I felt like God had given me a bad life or a raw deal or whatever you want to call it. Life was unfair.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like. And so I internalized it, all right? I mean, and also external. I mean, I rashed out at people that were trying to help me, and I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to, you know, be seen. Yeah. I just kind of wanted to stay in my room and stay in my own world and not be bothered with anything. I was just upset and bitter and very resentful, yeah. Okay? Yeah. I was angry. Yep. Very, very angry.
With all rights.
And I didn't see a way out at that time. Mm-hmm. I mean, people would come and pray for me and say a lot of positive things, but the doctors weren't saying the things that I wanted them to say, which was, hey, things are going to get better. Yeah. You know, I wanted a good report, but everything was, you know, there's nothing we can do. There's no pill, there's no procedure, you know. And so, you know, I would try to move and I just couldn't move. And so I just was, I was hating life at that point.
Yeah. How do you get over that hump? Because there are many that are watching today
Sure.
that are right there.
Sure. Well, during that year that I was mad and angry, mm-hmm. nothing changed, yeah. Okay? I seen that life wasn't getting better. Yeah. My attitude wasn't helping the situation. And as a matter of fact, it was making the situation worse because I had to depend on people, you know. I mean, I couldn't grab a glass of water without asking someone to help me. So I I realized that if I wanted to have things or just, live a happy life, my attitude had to change. And so that's where it started. That was the turning point. I realized that if something was going to change for me, if I wanted things to improve, it had to start with me.
Yes.
And that was the turning point.
Yes. Which is quite interesting because a lot of people don't understand that holding on to grudges, not forgiving, and not being open to, people coming into your life and helping you out is probably what the hold back is, which ends up being yourself, holding yourself back.
That's right.
But once you make up that mind, you made up that mind and you say, you know what, I'm going to get up.
That's right. And that's basically what I did. I knew that the doctors couldn't do it for me. And I knew that I was created in the likeness and the image of God. Yes. And so if anything was going to happen, it would have to be through that relationship with God. Yes. And understanding who I am. That's the only way things were going to change. And so I started not looking at my environment, looking at how doom and gloom it was, how bad it was, and started thinking about what can I do to help the situation, me, myself. How can I make it better? So I started looking at the positive side of my situation because all I was focusing on was what I couldn't do, how bad it was for me. But I found that when I started thinking about the positive side, it inspired me because I can see that by focusing on the positive side, I could help people. I felt better. I had something to look forward to. Yeah. And I was motivated. Yeah. And I didn't feel like a victim anymore. Yes. I felt like I had opportunity. And so that's what I seen. I seen opportunity with my injury, even as bad as it was. And I wanted to capitalize on that. I always was a person that was driven towards success. And I had been hit. I had been knocked down. And so I said, well, how can you turn this around? Yeah. You have a disability now. The best thing that you can do is get up. Yeah. And my mom taught me a very good lesson. Mm-hmm. I remember vividly, one day we were talking about some personal things. And she said to me, son, your body may be hurt, but there's nothing wrong with your mind. And so it just kind of reawakened some things for me. Yeah. And I was like, wow, she's right. I can think, I can imagine, I can learn. And so I started thinking about what I could do with my mind. I could still go to school, I can still get a degree. I may not be able to do the job that I thought I was going to do, but I could still get a job. And so before, I guess, my physical side of me really dictated what I was going to do in life because I played football. That's what I was, driven to do. And so, I put a lot of emphasis into my body. But after that, having that reawakening from my mom, I started looking into the spiritual and the mental side of myself.
Yes. Mr. Flowers, I mean, as he's talking, I can see him in front of stages, speaking in schools, he's speaking in companies, because companies get down as well, and then they want to get up. And the whole thinking concept of having to think about how you run your business day to day, the students, that if you have your mind and you have the body, there's nothing wrong with you, then you can do way more than what he's doing and what you're going to be doing with your life. So we're going to take another quick break. I hope you keep getting as motivated as I am because I'm up already. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
How much difficulty do you have getting your employees or your customers to listen to the solutions you can offer? This may be one of the great frustrations in business. It's time to excel. Dr. Stem now offers solutions with her Soft Skills Leadership Training Program and the Women's Executive Leadership Training Program. To reserve your seat in one of her coaching sessions, purchase her books, or to book her services, email her at drstemmalatini@gmail.com. or go to her website at www.drstem.org.
You're watching part one. This is only part one of our program today, which is Get Up, Achieve More with Rodney Flowers. So we're going to do this part one, and then there'll be a part two where we're going to be talking more about the way that he got up. Because in his book, he says, get up, I can't, I will, I did, and here's how. So he will tell us about here's how in the next segment when we do part two. Before we went on break, I know we've been talking and it's just rolling and rolling and rolling. And, we're talking about the time that you're now to a point where your mind is made up, you're going to be making it, and you're going to make a difference. But you're still laying down in a hospital.
Yes.
How do you get now from getting that mind frame that you now have, that positive mind frame, you know what, I got to get out of this funk. I got to think that I can and find ways and means of getting out of this hospital and walking again.
Sure.
How do you get those resources?
Well, a couple of things.
Okay.
There were some principles that I lived by. And I talk about those in my book because I think they're very, very powerful principles. And one of them is don't just do it for you. Do it for those that need to see you do it.
Yes.
So that was a driving force for me because I wanted to be an example for people. I wanted people to see that no matter how bad things are in life, no matter what it may look like, you can overcome it. And so having that principle, don't just do it for you, it gave me more of a reason to get up because I felt like I was doing it for everyone else. Everyone that had suffered the same kind of injury and didn't have any hope, didn't have any procedure or anything that could help them. And they haven't seen anyone recover from something like this. They haven't seen anyone get up from something like that. And so I wanted to be that person. The second one was demanding more from myself than anyone else.
Yeah. And the other thing that I really like about hearing your story, especially in this time when, we've had the bombing in France, which just happened,
Sure.
and the grief is happening, and times are changing, and people need that inner strength.
Sure.
So I know you also have programs that we're going to be talking about in the next segment that you're creating for people to be able to get up and show them the way that
Sure.
they can do that. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing for work now, because I know you were talking about, I needed to get out there and do work. You're working now.
Absolutely.
Full time.
Yes.
Where?
I work for the Department of Defense, Navy, down in Patuxent River, Maryland.
Yeah.
And I'm a contracting officer for United States Navy, and what that means I purchase, major weapon systems for the Navy.
Yeah.
I can't talk about it too much because it's governmental work, but I do work for the Navy.
And what I wanted to do is to give hope to those that are in that place where you were, whether it's an injury, whether it's life that is changing, to say, you know what, sometimes we can say to ourselves that nothing is going to work for me. And I don't think I can find a good job now, and I don't think I can do this now. And look at you, that you do have a job. It's a full-time job that you've been doing, and yes, you can. It's
well, I
possible.
mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like what you just said. It's making that decision. If you think that you can't, then you won't. But if you say, I am, then you start thinking about how you can make that happen. But if you're not thinking that you can do it, you're not going to be looking for opportunities. You're not going to be looking for people that can help you, get to where you're trying to go. So it starts with a decision. And that's what it was for me. Realizing I was disabled, realizing I had a disability, I still wanted success. I still wanted independence. I still wanted to earn my own money. I wanted to make my own way. And so I always had in my mind, I'm going to do this. Yeah. Now, I didn't know how, but I just knew that I was. And I knew that there were certain things about me that I needed in order to put myself in a position to be able to do it. And so I, started thinking about my education and, improving the personal skills, the social skills, and the things that I would need as a professional, even with my disability, to make it. And so those things became very, very important to me. Those were the things that I focused on because I knew I wanted to get out there and compete with, other able-bodied people. Yeah. And I wanted to have an edge. I wanted to have something that an employer would say, hey, let's check out this guy, you know? And so I would make sure that I gave my best. I practiced excellence so that when it came time for, you know, my resume to be stacked up against someone else, I would be chosen.
It's really stacking up high. You're watching Get Up, Achieve More is the name of our program that we're doing today with Rodney Flowers. So this ends the first part of our show. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you to watch a video that they made of his life when he got injured and then come to the point where he is now. So I hope that you watch us in the second segment, but enjoy this segment that we're going to show you the life of Rodney Flowers.
And in a second's moment, my life changed. I'm the kind of guy that loves football. I had dreams of going to the NFL. I was a great football player, and I was a guy that trained all the time. I loved training and preparing myself for football. I modeled after my uncle, who was a bodybuilder, and he always taught me how to eat right, how to be healthy, and prepare your body to perform at its peak. And that's the kind of guy I was. My motto was Emmitt Smith. I wanted to wear the jersey number 22 while playing football, and I did that. I trained hard, I worked hard, and I studied the game of football. And I played for the Lumberton Pirates back in 1993. And I was moving into my sophomore year, and I had certain goals of being successful and making scouts come out and watch me and potentially offer me a scholarship. During our first game, I was hyped up and ready to roll out, and had some awesome teammates, and we had an awesome season ahead of us with great expectations. And I was lined up on the football field on the right-hand side, you know, running down, you know, excited, ready to make my tackle, and boom, I suffered a spinal cord injury. And when I hit that guy, I hit him as hard as I could, and my goal was to try to make him fumble. And when I did that, I hit the ground, and all I could think about is, I can't move anymore. I was done. I wanted to get up, and I was trying to get up, and the accident was so traumatizing. My brain hadn't actually caught up with the fact that my spinal cord was injured, so my brain could feel my body get up. It was telling me that my body was getting up, but I wasn't actually moving. And all I could do was just sit there, and I kept trying to get up. I kept trying to get up. One of my teammates came over to me, and he said, "Come on, man, you made a good hit. That was a good hit. Come on, get up, get up." But I couldn't get up. It was very, very, very hard. I knew that my life was going to change forever.
I was jumping up and down because of this play that just happened. And Rodney did the tackle, and I jumps up. And all of a sudden, when I jumps up and I gets over my little, you know, this little thing we got, and Rodney didn't get up. So when he didn't get up, I said, he's going to be okay. You know, you got this thing called getting stung. So I said, he just got stung. He's a big boy. He'll get up. But he didn't get up. That was life-changing right there because he didn't get up.
They put me on this spinal board and stabilized my body. I began to cry, and my mom came out on the field and began to pray, and it was a very scary moment.
This tackle that he made, the sound of it was just, I mean, it was so loud, and I didn't feel right. And the moment that he got tackled, he was tackled front and back, and I was on the field, and it didn't take me long to get to the field to watch him lay there.
They started cutting me and poking on me, and I couldn't feel a thing. I couldn't feel any of it. I remember laying in the hospital, and they began to cut my feet. And they cut my feet to the point that it was bleeding, but I didn't know it. And my dad was sitting there, and he asked me, he said, "Can you feel that?" And I said, "Feel what? What are they doing to me? What are they doing?" And he said, "You're bleeding. They cut your foot to the point that you are bleeding to see if you could feel it. You can't feel it." And I couldn't feel it.
I'm standing at the bottom of his feet, and the doctors are cutting the bottom of his feet. And I'm scared to tell him what they're doing to his body. He's asking me, what are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? And I'm just saying, it's okay, Rodney. Can you feel this? And he says, no, I don't feel anything. Then all of a sudden, tears start coming out of his eyes.
So I decided, to change my attitude, and I became very determined that, you know what, I am going to walk again. I had a great support group with my family and certain members of my church that constantly talked to me, and they actually helped me increase my faith. And I just decided that, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give this my best shot. I'm not going to let this defeat me.
He never raised his hand. At that particular time, he could only blink his eye. And the company that I was working for an eye care center, and they made a particular glasses for him called prisms, and that was the only way he could see his feet. He could see people coming through the door because he couldn't do anything but move his eyes. That was it. And he couldn't feed himself. Anything we put in him, we had to get it out of him. We stayed with him 24/7. He was in a bed. It turned him from one side to the other side. And the Spirit of the Lord had me to write scriptures on the wall. He communicated off the wall.
I was able to sustain myself without a wheelchair. And that dramatically, changed my life. I mean, it was 18 years since the initial injury. And then, I got the pump implant. And now I don't even use the wheelchair anymore. So I've completely given it up. I walk everywhere I go. I do walk with forearm crutches, but now I'm focused on getting rid of those. So
how do you adapt your house to it? How do you adapt your life to it? What do you do for this? Life goes on. It can go on with you, being up walking, and it can go on with you sitting down in a chair.
The odds were against me of recovering at any level, with the injury that I had. I mean, I had a C5, C6 spinal injury. If you know anything about that, I was one vertebrae from not being able to breathe. And, the odds of me, first of all, even recovering were slim.
We couldn't have made it without knowing what the Word says, what God told us to do, giving up ourselves for the other person, because we are our brother's keeper, and you can make it. For those that think that you can't make it, I know with a fact that you can make it.
Positive thoughts and positive things in my head, and, I made it.
Hey, come on.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Stem Show. Have a terrific week.